The unexpected generosity. The rain pelted against the windows of Lavender and Thyme, a quaint bistro nestled between a bookshop and an antique store in the sleepy coastal town of Harbor Point. Olivia Jenkins wiped her brow with the back of her hand, her auburn hair escaping its loose bun as she balanced 3 plates along her forearm. The evening rush had been particularly brutal, especially with Tessa calling in sick and leaving Olivia to handle twice her usual tables. "Order up for table 7, called Marco from the kitchen, his voice barely audible over the clatter of dishes and murmur of conversation. "Coming!" Olivia called back, delivering the plates to a family of 4 before rushing to pick up the next order. At table 12 sat a man she hadn't seen before. Harbor Point was small enough that Olivia recognized most faces, but this one was new. He sat alone, reading a paperback with a coffee cup that had long gone empty. Something about his quiet presence and the gentle way he turned each page made her pause momentarily. He looked up, offering a small smile that reached his hazel eyes, and Olivia felt a strange flutter in her chest before hurrying back to work. Nathan Foster hadn't planned to stop in Harbor Point. His GPS had rerouted him due to a landslide on the coastal highway, and what should have been a 3-hour drive to his job interview in Brighton had turned into an impromptu overnight stay. The bistro had looked inviting with its warm yellow lights and the promise of homemade food, a welcome change from highway diners and fast food. When the rain started, he decided to linger over his meal, ordering dessert and coffee while working through a few chapters of his novel. The waitress, Olivia, according to her name tag, moved with determined efficiency, clearly overwhelmed but maintaining a genuine smile for each customer. As the dinner crowd thinned, Olivia approached his table, notepad in hand. "Can I get... you anything else?" "Just the check, please," Nathan replied, closing his book. Olivia nodded, hurrying to the register. Her mind juggled orders, tables, and the growing ache in her feet. She printed a receipt and slid it onto Nathan's table with a tired but sincere, "Thank you for coming in." Nathan glanced at the bill and paused. $87.43. He'd had soup, a sandwich, cheesecake, and coffee. Certainly not an $87 meal. This was clearly meant for another table, perhaps the group of 6 that had been seated near him. He looked up to call Olivia's attention but stopped when he saw her rushing to help an elderly woman who had spilled her water. Looking back at the bill, Nathan considered his options. He could point out the mistake, which was the logical thing to do. Or, he thought about the dark circles under Olivia's eyes, the way she'd maintained her composure despite the chaos, and how she'd refilled his coffee without being asked. Without further deliberation, Nathan placed his credit card on the bill tray, adding a $20 tip. When Olivia returned to process his payment, she didn't check the bill, simply running his card and returning with the receipt for him to sign. "Hope you enjoyed everything," she said. "It was perfect," Nathan replied, signing the receipt. "Thank you." As he left, the rain still falling steadily, Nathan didn't regret his decision. What was an extra $60, really? He'd been fortunate in his career as a software developer, and something about Olivia's determined grace had stirred a forgotten corner of his heart. What Nathan couldn't have known was that Olivia would discover the mistake later that night, and that his simple act of kindness would set in motion a chain of events that would change both their lives forever. Apologies and coffee. The next morning, Olivia sat cross-legged on her bed, spreadsheets and receipts scattered around her. Managing her finances had become a weekly ritual, one she dreaded but couldn't avoid. Between her student loans, helping, her grandmother with medical bills, and saving for her dream of opening a small bakery, every dollar mattered. She meticulously checked each receipt against the register totals when she froze. Table 12. The quiet man with the book. She'd given him the Henderson family's bill instead of his own. Her heart sank as she calculated the difference. He'd overpaid by nearly $60. No, she muttered, frantically searching for his credit card receipt. Nathan Foster, At least she had a name. After an hour of detective work that included calling the only hotel in town and explaining her predicament to a sympathetic desk clerk, Olivia had his room number. She debated calling, but decided this required a personal apology. With the money withdrawn from her own account and tucked into an envelope, she headed to the Seaside Inn. Nathan was checking out when Olivia burst through the hotel doors, slightly out of breath from the uphill walk. "Mr. Foster?" she called, immediately recognizing him from the bistro. He turned, confusion giving way to recognition. "Olivia from Lavender and Thyme. I am so sorry to bother you, but I made a terrible mistake last night," she explained, words tumbling out as she extended the envelope. "I gave you someone else's bill. You paid almost $60 too much, and I brought it back." Nathan's surprise melted into a smile. "You tracked me down for this?" "Of course. It was my mistake, and it wasn't right." Instead of taking the envelope, Nathan checked his watch. "I have about an hour before I need to leave for Brighton. Would you let me buy you coffee instead? Consider it a fair trade for your honesty." Something in his gentle demeanor made Olivia accept, though she insisted on keeping the envelope ready. They walked to a small coffee shop overlooking the harbor. As they settled with their drinks, an Americano for him, chai latte for her, conversation flowed with unexpected ease. Nathan explained he was interviewing for a position that would allow him to work remotely, potentially from anywhere with reliable internet. "And what brought you to Harbor Point?" Olivia asked. "A landslide and a rerouted GPS," he laughed. "Sometimes mistakes lead to the best detours." Olivia found herself sharing her own story, how she'd put culinary school on hold to help care for her grandmother, her dream of someday turning her recipe collection into a small business. "I've been saving for 3 years," she admitted. "Hence my panic over the $60. "Which I still won't take back," Nathan insisted. "Consider it an investment in your future bakery." When he finally had to leave, they exchanged numbers. "Just in case you're ever back in Harbor Point," Olivia suggested, trying to sound casual despite the unexpected connection she felt. "I have a feeling I will be," Nathan replied. 3 days. Later, a text arrived. "Got the job. Considering Harbor Point as my new home base. Any rental recommendations?" Weekend explorations. By mid-October, the coastal fog had settled into its familiar pattern, blanketing Harbor Point each morning before retreating with the afternoon sun. Nathan had been in town for nearly a month, renting a small cottage overlooking the bay and transforming the second bedroom into a home office. He and Olivia had fallen into an easy friendship. Weekend excursions became their tradition, exploring hidden beaches, hiking coastal trails, or simply wandering through the town's seasonal farmers market. On this particular Saturday, they drove to the neighboring town's autumn festival. As they strolled past artisan booths, Olivia paused at a display of handcrafted pottery. "These remind me of my grandmother's dishes," she said, running her fingers over a blue-glazed bowl. "She taught me to bake using bowls just like these." Nathan watched her, captivated by the way her eyes lit up when she spoke of her passion for baking. "Tell me more about your grandmother," he prompted. As they continued walking, Olivia revealed how her grandmother had raised her after her parents' divorce, how the kitchen had become their sanctuary. "When she got sick last year, I couldn't leave her. Culinary school just had to wait." "That's incredibly selfless," Nathan said softly. "Not really. She's my family. It's what you do." Olivia shrugged, but Nathan caught the hint of sacrifice in her voice. They stopped for lunch at a cidery, sampling flights of local apple varieties while sharing a charcuterie board. The autumn sunlight caught in Olivia's hair, turning it to copper, and Nathan realized he'd been staring when she raised an eyebrow questioningly. "Sorry," he laughed. "It's just, I haven't felt this comfortable with someone in a long time." Olivia's smile faltered slightly. Previous relationship end badly? Nathan nodded, taking a sip of cider before answering. Jessica and I were together for 4 years. I thought we were building something real, but she... He paused. She wasn't faithful. Found out she'd been seeing her coworker for months. I'm sorry, Olivia said, her hand instinctively reaching for his across the table. It was a year ago. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was realizing our whole relationship had been built on what I wanted to see, not what was actually there. The conversation shifted to Olivia's own relationship history. A college boyfriend who couldn't understand her commitment to her family, a brief romance with a chef who'd moved to Seattle for a prestigious position. I think I've always put everyone else first, she admitted. My grandmother, my work. I'm not sure I know how to prioritize a relationship. Maybe it's not about prioritizing, Nathan suggested. Maybe it's about finding someone who fits into your life as it is, not someone who demands you reshape it. Whoa. The day drew to a close. They found themselves on the festival's small Ferris wheel, the sunset painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. At the top, the wheel paused, and Olivia shivered in the evening breeze. Without a word, Nathan wrapped his arm around her shoulders. In that suspended moment, with the world spread out beneath them, something shifted. When Olivia turned to thank him, their faces were inches apart. The kiss that followed was gentle, tentative, a question more than a declaration. When they broke apart, both laughing nervously, Olivia whispered, I wasn't expecting that. Neither was I, Nathan admitted. But I'm very glad it happened. That night, driving back to Harbor Point under a canopy of stars, their hands found each other across the center console. Neither spoke of what might come next, content to exist in the perfect uncertainty of a beginning. The distance test, December, arrived with uncharacteristic snow flurries and the news Nathan had been dreading. His father had suffered a mild heart attack. Within hours, he'd booked a flight to Chicago, promising Olivia he'd be back as soon as possible. Family comes first, she assured him, helping him pack and driving him to the airport. I understand better than most. Their goodbye in the departure terminal was bittersweet, a lingering kiss and the promise of daily calls. What should have been a week-long trip stretched into 2, then 3, as Nathan's father required additional procedures and someone needed to manage the family's small accounting firm in his absence. From opposite sides of the country, they maintained their connection through video calls, text messages, and the occasional care package. Olivia sent homemade cookies and local specialty items. Nathan responded with Chicago delicacies and handwritten notes. The timing is terrible, Nathan lamented. During one late-night call, his voice tired after another long day at his father's office. We were just finding our rhythm. We still are, Olivia assured him, though she couldn't ignore the hollow feeling in her apartment without their weekend plans to anticipate. As Christmas approached, Olivia threw herself into seasonal work. Lavender and Thyme had become the go-to caterer for local holiday events, and the extra income would significantly boost her bakery savings. The exhausting schedule provided distraction from Nathan's absence, but each night she found herself checking her phone for messages that grew increasingly sporadic as his responsibilities mounted. On December 23rd, she received a brief text. Won't make it back for Christmas after all. Dad needs more help than I thought. Call you tomorrow. Olivia understood. Truly, she did. But disappointment settled heavy in her chest as she placed his wrapped gift under her small tree. She'd splurged on a first-edition copy of the novel he'd been reading when they first met, Christmas. Eve brought an unexpected invitation from Marco, the bistro's owner, to join his family's celebration. No one should be alone on Christmas, he insisted, and Olivia gratefully accepted. The evening was a chaos of delicious food, raucous laughter, and Marco's extended Italian family adopting her as one of their own. When her phone remained silent, all night she tried not to let it dampen her spirits. Back home, slightly tipsy on mulled wine, she curled up on her sofa and finally allowed herself to cry. Not because Nathan was gone. She understood the pull of family obligation better than most, but because their beautiful beginning felt suddenly fragile, stretched thin across thousands of miles. Her phone rang just after midnight. Nathan's tired. Face appeared on the screen, backdropped by what appeared to be an airport terminal. "Merry Christmas," he said, his smile apologetic. "I'm sorry I missed our call." "It's okay. How's your dad?" "Stable. My sister arrived today, so—" He hesitated, and Olivia noticed for the first time the bustle of travelers behind him. "Nathan, where are you?" His smile widened. "O'Hare. My flight leaves in an hour." "You're coming home?" The word slipped out before she could catch it. Home. As if Harbor Point had become that for him. "I realized something these past weeks," Nathan said, his voice dropping lower. "Working at my dad's firm, I kept thinking about how he built his whole life around that business. 40 years in the same office, same routine. He never took chances, never followed unexpected detours." A boarding announcement sounded in the background. "When they called me to his hospital room, you know what he said? He asked if I was happy. Not about work or success, just happy. And I realized the happiest I've been in years was exploring a small coastal town with a woman who tracked me down to return $60. Olivia felt tears welling again, but different ones this time. "I'll land around noon tomorrow," he continued. "Too late for Christmas morning, but perfect timing for Christmas dinner," she finished. "I'll be there." As she hung up, Olivia realized the distance hadn't weakened what they were building. It had clarified it. Some connections couldn't be measured in miles or days apart. Some just endured, growing stronger in the stretching. Full circle spring came early to Harbor Point, bringing wildflowers to the coastal bluffs and a steady stream of weekend tourists to Lavender and Thyme. The bistro had undergone renovations over the winter, expanding into the vacant space next. Door to include, at Marco's insistence, a small bakery counter featuring Olivia's creations. "Consider it a trial run," Marco had offered. "Your pastries sell out every weekend anyway. Might as well make it official." On this particular Wednesday, the bistro was closed for a private event, though Olivia, standing in the kitchen putting final touches on a 3-tiered cake, didn't know exactly what kind of event. Nathan had been mysteriously vague, saying only that Marco had asked for his help coordinating a special project. Since returning from Chicago at Christmas, Nathan had become an integral part of Harbor Point. He'd joined the town's Economic Development Committee, volunteering his tech expertise to help local businesses improve their online presence. He'd even started teaching coding classes at the community center on Monday evenings. The past 5 months with Nathan had been the happiest of Olivia's adult life. They'd established routines, Sunday morning hikes, cooking dinner together on Wednesdays, quiet reading sessions by the fireplace in his cottage, while still finding ways to surprise each other. Last month, he'd arranged a weekend trip to meet her grandmother, winning the elderly woman over with his patient attention to her stories and willingness to learn her secret pie crust recipe. As Olivia arranged lavender sprigs around the cakes, perimeter, she heard the bistro's front door open. "Not ready yet," she called out. "Give me 15 more minutes." Instead of retreating, footsteps approached the kitchen. Nathan appeared in the doorway, looking uncharacteristically nervous in a blue button-down shirt she hadn't seen before. "You're early," she said, wiping her hands on her apron, "and surprisingly dressed up for a Wednesday." Nathan smiled, crossing the kitchen to kiss her lightly. "You look beautiful, covered in flour." "Charmer. Now, shoo. I need to finish this cake before Marco's mystery event." Instead of leaving, Nathan took her flour-dusted hands in his. "About that event, it's not exactly Marco's." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "It's mine. Well, ours, potentially." He guided her from the kitchen into the dining room, where she stopped in surprise. The bistro had been transformed. Soft lights hung from the ceiling, tables rearranged to create an intimate space centered around one particular table. Table 12, she realized. The same table where they'd first encountered each other nearly a year ago. "Nathan, what is this?" He led her to the table where a single receipt lay beside a small velvet box. Olivia's hands trembled as she picked up the receipt. Not a real one from the bistro, but a custom-printed note that read, "Some mistakes are actually perfect timing in disguise." "Sit with me?" Nathan asked, his voice unsteady as he pulled out her chair. Once seated across from her, he took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about detours lately. How sometimes the road you didn't plan to take leads exactly where you needed to go." He reached for the velvet box but didn't open it yet. "When I came to Harbor Point, I was just passing through. One billing error and one very honest waitress. Later, I found a home I wasn't looking for." Olivia felt tears welling. "You're not just talking about the town, are you?" "No." Nathan smiled, opening the box to reveal a vintage-style emerald ring with small diamonds flanking the center stone. "Home isn't a place. It's the person you want to build a life alongside. For me, that's you." Taking the ring out, he continued, "I'm not asking you to change your dreams. I want to be part of them, the bakery, this community, all of it. I want mornings with flower in your hair and evenings planning our next adventure." "Nathan," Olivia began, but he shook his head. "Let me finish, please. I've rehearsed this about 20 times. He took another steadying breath. "Olivia Jenkins, I love how you put others first while never losing sight of your own dreams. I love your determination and your kindness. And I would be honored if you'd consider another detour with me. Marriage." Through her tears, Olivia laughed. "That's your proposal? A detour?" "The best journeys rarely follow a straight line," Nathan replied, his own eyes glistening. "So what do you say? Want to take the scenic route together?" Olivia stood, pulling him to his feet and into her arms. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. "Absolutely yes." As they kissed, the bistro's front door opened again, and cheers erupted as Marco, his family, Olivia's grandmother in her wheelchair, and a dozen of their closest friends poured in. Champagne bottles and Olivia's finished cake appearing as if by magic. Later that evening, as celebrations swirled around them, Nathan and Olivia found a quiet moment at table 12. "I have a confession," Nathan said, interlacing his fingers with hers, the emerald ring catching the light. "I knew about the wrong." "Bill that first night?" Olivia's eyes widened. "You did? Why didn't you say anything?" "Because something told me to wait, to see what would happen next." He smiled, bringing her hand to his lips. "Best $60 I ever spent." Olivia leaned her head against his shoulder, watching their friends and family celebrate around them. "And to think all of this started with a mistake." "No," Nathan corrected gently. "It started with kindness. Yours in making it right, mine in letting it go. The universe just made sure we were paying attention." In the warmth of the bistro where their story began, surrounded by the community that had become their shared home, they sat at table 12. No longer strangers, no longer just friends, but partners choosing each other, detours and all.